Hi everybody, this is Dino Chris from Prehistoric Facts, and this is a special episode. Even though we didn't do a answer questions episode last week, we actually decided that we actually do a special episode. But I'll actually do an answer questions episode next week, Friday. So it will be a day early. But that way, the questions will actually get answered, and also I can actually have a little fun on next week, Saturday. But anyway, this special episode, we're actually going to talk about a very iconic dinosaur in the Cretaceous, Parasaurolophus. And its reason why it's one of the most famous is because of its skull. But anywho, Parasaurolophus can actually reach in lengths of between 30 to 35 feet in length. Probably would weigh around 4 to 5 tons, and it's basically a herbivore. And so, and getting to the reason why it is one of the most famous dinosaurs in the Cretaceous is basically because of the skull. Now, when we look at Parasaurolophus' skull, it actually does have that duck bill, so it's basically a duck-billed dinosaur, a hadrosaur, and also has it has like this elongated crest on the back of its head. And so, and basically, this crest is hollow in there, and the reason why is because it actually can use that crest to actually produce sound. And when we actually look at the scientific models of basically the skulls of Parasaurolophus, we actually see that they actually communicated in low frequency sounds, and that makes a lot of sense, since that the dinosaurs' closest living relatives, birds, actually do hear a lot better in low frequency sounds than high frequency sounds, which is kind of interesting when you think that people would think that birds that only hear high pitched sounds is because we hear their high pitched sounds, and they think they communicate a lot better with their high pitched sounds. But technically, it's not true. You see, we actually hear better in high frequency sounds. Humans do. But we don't hear very good in low frequency sounds. So this infrasound that these animals would make, we can't hear it. And so that's the reason why that birds hear actually a lot better in low frequency sounds, which is basically infrasound. And we actually see that in the CAT scans of their skulls in the inner ear, which is basically the part of the ear, part of the brain associated with basically the cochlea, the hearing organ, and also how the brain actually functions that way, you know. And when we actually look at Parasaurolophus, and basically we actually see it probably doesn't have that many weapons to actually defend itself. But even though its tail is actually a very good defensive weapon to actually whack the predators, to give it a distraction, and also, but basically the number one defense would actually be safety in numbers. These animals roamed in herds, probably into thousands in a herd, and so basically they would actually just be eating vegetation like crazy, and so it would actually be this, like, the biggest wildebeest in the world would actually be eating every leaf off of a tree, a bush, and even grass. But even though grass didn't really exist during the time of Parasaurolophus, and so, even though Parasaurolophus has actually been found mostly in Canada, but it's also been found in Montana, parts of Wyoming, and so this dinosaur is actually very common, and also it's one of the more favorite collectible toys for dinosaur enthusiasts, just because you see it's a very iconic duck-billed dinosaur. And all of you Land Before Time fans, kind of like myself, Ducky is actually a Parasaurolophus, and that's the reason why that hadrosaurs are actually nicknamed the duckbills, is because they have a flattened out beak. But even though when you actually look at their mouth structure, they're not really like ducks. You see, they do have very small teeth in the back of their jaws, and they have like thousands of teeth, and so they basically just grind their food on those teeth, and so they're actually a very unique kind of dinosaur, and especially hadrosaurs. And hadrosaurs are kind of closely related to the iguanodonts, and that's the reason why that Hadrosaurs kind of came from a family group that kind of was basically kind of like the iguanodonts. And one example is the link between iguanodonts and hadrosaurs, dinosaur that's been found in Texas. I think it's called Prohadrosaur. I think it is called Prohadrosaur, and so it's a very unique kind of dinosaur. But anyway, into Parasaurolophus. Even though Dr. Robert Bacher actually has suggested that infrasound can be used as a weapon in terms of on land animals, but I have a hard time believing this theory. And the reason why is because, you see, how can sound travel faster in the air than it is in the water? Because sound travels farther and faster in water than in air. And I think he's probably looking at whales a little bit too much, and I think he's probably using that as way, like, let's put it into land animals and see how that actually works. I think elephants do actually have the ability to do that, but basically it's just you don't see predators actually just standing still from basically trying to catch their prey, and I don't understand why that was actually used in a way to say that hadrosaurs can use their sound as a weapon. Well, it can, but basically it's just to, like, burst out noise to actually discourage the predator, you know, to make the predator think, to say, wait, I can't even deal with that, you know, because it's basically a bunch of my prey just yelling at me, and I can't stand that, you know. But usually predators do use that as a way to attract their prey. But you know what? Let's just leave it at that. You know, let's just say it's a controversial theory, and we'll actually just kind of go from there. And when we look at Parasaurolophus as well, in terms of like their mechanics, it's not basically. When we look at the hadrosaur brain, and in terms of their inner ear canals are not very long at all. They're not really agile animals. They can be fast animals. It's just basically they have to run in a straight line in order to actually get away from the predator. Because if you actually just give the hadrosaur, if you give it the ability of like a raptor, then it would probably a raptorial dinosaur like Deinonychus, then you would actually see the hadrosaur moving in different directions. But in terms of basically what their inner ear structure looks like, it doesn't look like that they're very agile animals. So they're fast, but they probably can only run in a straight line. And basically their first thing that they actually have to do is basically run away from the predator first. But if that doesn't work, then you actually have to use a team structure. Basically, use your herd to actually discourage the predators, to make sure that you're not in easy meals, because we actually communicate as a team and you can't break us apart. But that's only if you actually have one predator actually chasing you. But if you have multiple predators chasing you, then the game has changed. You know, that's how it actually kind of works. And of course, since it's during that time, basically lived around 80 to 70 million years ago in North America in the Cretaceous, it's basically going to have numerous predators. Basically, Gorgosaurus, Albertosaurus, and Daspletosaurus, and even you actually got your raptorial dinosaurs like Troodon, and also like Dromaeosaurus. And so those will be the predators that it'll actually be facing. And the Tyrannosaurs are its number one enemy. But I think Albertosaurus and Gorgosaurus were probably better equipped to capture those kinds of would be better predators to capture hadrosaurs, because since they used their speed to actually catch the hadrosaurs and also inflict a nasty wound on the hadrosaurs. And since that basically 75 million years ago, in that part of the Cretaceous, terrestrial life was actually just like filled with numerous species of dinosaurs, and Lurimedia is just like basically just a biological preserve that you wouldn't believe. I mean, it wasn't probably as diverse as probably, like, say, the early Cretaceous dinosaurs or the late Jurassic dinosaurs. There's probably a little bit, and also these animals are actually a lot more sophisticated than the Jurassic and the early Cretaceous dinosaurs. And of course, the extinction of Parasaurolophus is that new herbivores came in and actually basically ate the plants that Parasaurolophus actually had, and also you actually have new predators coming in, and basically the new Tyrannosaur that would actually be arriving around 70 million years ago is Tyrannosaurus rex, and so that would actually be a predator, and basically Tyrannosaurus rex would actually kill any hadrosaur that is actually very primitive in design to actually count its to basically just eat it, just basically eat them to extinction. But basically it's most likely the plant life that would actually have changed a lot more often. And also the climate got hotter when it got closer to the end of the Cretaceous, and so that actually had an effect in a way that global warming, that basically climate change in terms of warming, would actually have made an impact on how the animals might have actually have survived and behaved. So, and also Edmontosaurus actually comes into view too during that time, and also you actually have new ceratopsians that actually arrives there, like Torosaurus and Triceratops. Those would be the animals that would actually be left around, to be left in the very end of the Cretaceous. And so there's still a possibility that it could have actually lived all the way into the Maastrichtian period of the Cretaceous, which is basically the very end of the Cretaceous. And so we won't know for sure unless if we actually find more fossil evidence of this. And so Parasaurolophus is still an iconic dinosaur, no matter what. Alright, that's it for now. And now, like I mentioned earlier, is that I actually will be doing an Answer Questions episode next week, Friday. So hopefully I can get some questions in for next week's Friday episode. So make sure to email me at dinocris71@gmail.com, or otherwise you can post the questions on the Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts at DinoChris, and also in the comment section, basically. And you can also follow me on Twitter at CSGRALL, and also take care of the people around you. And also for you younger people out there, make sure to listen to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians. Those are the best motivation you can have for a good education. It's very important to have a good education. With a good education, you get a good job in the future. Alright, that's it for now, and I'll see you guys next week, Friday.